Takamasu slips away on his own, informally leaving the continuity patrol. It might be better if he goes his own way, tries to do things his own way. Whatever the continuity patrol is doing right now, it's clearly not working, and Kakamasu wants to fix that. This is episode 8 of Cell Prime. Kakamasu wonders what his next move should be. He thought his fuse power would be more than enough for this, but clearly it isn't working. He has contemplated unfusing. He has many ways to do so, but he never actually did it because he thought the power from fusion might actually be better than what was lost from it. Sure, it wasn't a massive increase in power, especially because Zamasu wasn't really comparable to Kakarot, but still, the increase in power was pretty notable at the very least. For now, the Kakarot side of this fusion is at least keeping him somewhat grounded, but the Zamasu side realizes that he needs more to defeat Cell, and that's the part that's kind of going rogue. That part's becoming more powerful, even affecting the Kakarot side. Granted, there's not really sides to this fusion, it's a brand new personality, a brand new person, but the two fusees do have an effect. And the Zamasu part of him here, it's definitely changing his outlook. He's going to go to any length to defeat Cell Prime. Speaking of Cell, he has to figure out what his next moves are. He has complete control over reality hopping now. He was even able to use it in that instant, just to escape that fight. Of course, he's a bit disappointed in himself, the fact that he couldn't get out of that. But he was kind of at a disadvantage. He was against a version of Goku and Vegeta that were in their peak forms, with centuries of extra experience, plus Cooler, who he didn't really know anything about, who clearly had a lot of power, as well as that version of Kakarot with the weird greenish-blue hair. Those two were incredibly strong. Combine that with the magic of the Goku in that universe as well as Kakamasu, and it was pretty much a recipe for disaster. Although, Cell at least takes solace in the fact that it took all 5 of them together, plus basically what amounts to a sneak attack, since he didn't know about the others coming there. It took all that to nearly defeat him, and he still was able to escape. But still, it does kind of irk him that he had to escape here. But he looks down at the continuity ring on his hand. This is essentially a better time ring. Yes, it uses a lot of power, and it basically returned him to a checkpoint. He had to use his own power to basically fuel this. But he wants to try and kick it up a notch and see if it could let him go anywhere else. He does have to be careful though. This ring has 2 functions. 1, it allows him to seamlessly travel through realities and explore new ones before he even actually goes there, so he basically knows where he's going. But 2, it could also basically set checkpoints for him, almost like a video game of sorts. However, that requires a domain with his complete control. He was actually brought back to the continuity that he contained. Since he had complete control over that one, he used that as a checkpoint, although it did basically return him to where he was at that point in time. So it does set him a few months back in power, but he's amazed that worked because that's a really good last resort. And he can't just set this aimlessly. Otherwise, he would have just done it in Vegeta's universe. Even just setting those checkpoints, for lack of a better word, that takes a lot of power in and of itself, plus all the control over the continuity that he's in. There was no point wasting more power setting it in some other continuity that didn't matter to him, and it was better to keep it this far back because this makes him a lot more untraceable. Not to mention, this is only really a last resort for him. He did this to avoid being erased because if he stayed there, he would have been erased. Not just killed, but completely destroyed by the Hakkais. Anyways, he hopes he doesn't have to use that again. But now to test the other functions of the ring, which he has used a little bit, but he wants to try more of. He looks for a new place to travel to. The best part about this ring is it's a lot more covert than his old method of travel. Because he's not forcibly breaking reality to travel, it's basically untraceable, especially because it doesn't split timelines like he used to. It's just like the time ring. With that, you could travel to different timelines without splitting the timelines, unlike a time machine which actually will, at least when you first use it. So, with the continuity ring, he could hop into a different continuity, and it's basically left as is. There's no second timeline made, which hasn't really been an issue so far, but it was a really big issue when he fought that one version of Goku, although he wonders how many alternate timelines he created by doing this. Hopefully there's nothing out there lurking about. You know, an old enemy that he fought that's in another timeline that split off from the original one. But the chances of that are probably pretty low, right? Whatever. He finds a new continuity, and it's one that's really interesting because it seems like there's another version of himself in it. Naturally, he wants to check this out. That seems awesome. He even found a few other continuities with him in it, including one where he was apparently reincarnated like that one Frieza reincarnation. That's interesting, so maybe he'll visit that later. But for now, he's more interested in this other version of Cell because it really is him. It's just another version of him, except with different events in his life. But he can tell that this other Cell is powerful. When he travels there, he ends up on Beerus' planet in Universe 7, and it seems like a fight just happened here. He sees 2 very familiar faces, one being himself and Gohan. Or at least what he assumes is Gohan. He looks very different and he's in a new form that Cell hasn't really seen before. Goku and Vegeta are also there watching on the side. That Goku feels weaker than normal for some reason, but the Vegeta feels pretty strong, and more importantly, the Gohan and Cell in this timeline feel really strong. Naturally, they're pretty confused to see another Cell here, but not immediately alert because, you know, the Cell with them is actually good. The continuity he traveled to is one where Cell ended up surviving, eventually becoming a part of the group, but at the end of the day, he still is Cell. And Cell Prime gets right down to business. He did have a reason to come here, but depending on Cell's answer, it's going to affect what he does here. First, he basically tries to pull a Goku Black, trying to get the other Cell to join him. It's a long shot, and he knows this isn't going to work. Of course, the other Cell denies this. He doesn't even know who Cell Prime is, and just by looking at him, he could tell they're very different versions of Cell. Well, it was at least worth a shot. He doesn't know what he would have done with that other Cell anyways, besides maybe forcing him to fuse into him, but maybe he could still do that, because the main reason he came here is to fight the other Cell. He wanted to see if he truly is the strongest Cell in any existence. Of course, he has to be. But it should be pretty fun fighting himself. And if he wins this fight, he could take that Cell's power for himself too. Imagine that, merging with another Cell. They are part Namekian after all, and they could just fuse that way. Whis actually steps in, a little bit concerned. Now, of course, as an angel, he can't actually fight here. But at the request of Lord Beerus, he heals Gohan and Cell, who just got out of their own fight. And they actually do grow from this too. And he warns them to be careful. They don't know who this Cell is, and Whis is going to look into it. Fine with them. The two of them power up, with Gohan showing his form, Final Gohan, a godly evolution of his beast form. It's Cell showcasing a very familiar Ultra Instinct. Cell Prime chuckles at this. It's basically like looking in the mirror, except he doesn't have all the same abilities. But this should make it really fun, fighting another Ultra Instinct user. And not just any Ultra Instinct user, because he's fought those before. He's fighting himself. So for this battle, he's going to actually try something a little bit different. He does need more practice with these powers too. And he tries to take notes from that Goku he fought last time. He wants to use Ultra Instinct subconsciously, and try to combine it with something else. His eyes briefly flash red, and then a purple aura surrounds him. He summons the power of Ultra Ego, but also tries to use Ultra Instinct to control his movements. Of course, the two of these forms are pretty conflicting, but he's not using Ultra Instinct as a form, he's trying to use it as a technique here. Granted, it still kind of conflicts. But with how much practice Cell has had with Ultra Instinct, he basically has perfect mastery over it by now. To the point where even if he's using something like Ultra Ego, his body still reacts as if it were using Ultra Instinct. It's so used to it that it's ingrained within him, almost even ingrained in his base form, without even thinking about it. Which is how it works after all. This is going to be fun. And this is basically the birth of a new evolution of Cell Prime's main form. He guesses this is Ultra Prime Cell. It's a combination of Ultra Ego with the technique Ultra Instinct, fueled by the power of Ultra Ego, enhanced by magic, constantly growing stronger thanks to pure progress, and of course, with the analysis of Cerulean Red Eyes. A large-scale battle begins. Nothing new for Gohan and Cell from this timeline. But the other Cell, the good one, he's still pretty confused about what's happening here. Why is there another version of himself? Clearly this one didn't go through the same life events that he did. And Cell Prime says he's right on target. He didn't even awaken at the same time as him. From what he assumes, the Cell that he's fighting is actually the one from the other timeline. You know, the first one that showed up. And he sees what happened here. Interesting. Not only is he surprised to see that other version of Cell survived, but also the fact that he's nearly good now. Actually, it's safe to say he is good. He's fighting alongside Gohan. But the good Cell doesn't let this distract him. Actually, he taunts the other Cell too. You know, with him being the embodiment of perfection. That implies that whatever isn't him, it's not perfect. So sure, the Cell Prime guy might be powerful, but there can only be one perfect Cell. And it's going to be the good one from this timeline. Fascinating words. But Cell Prime assures them that they're underestimating him. As the battle continues on, Cell Prime is having a lot of fun, especially learning more about these two fighters. He's never seen a Gohan like this, nor a Cell like this for that matter. And going back to what he said about fusing with this other Cell, he wonders how that would go if he went to other universes and did this. Of course, if he wants more power, the entire time he could have just gone to get other sets of Super Dragon Balls and wish for power, but for him, he doesn't like that. There's no fun in that. It would be so easy, especially now with the Continuity Ring, just to hop into different continuities and get all the Super Dragon Balls there, wishing for more power. Actually, just one set with infinite power could be enough. But again, where's the fun in that? Cell lives for the fun of battle. He likes a challenge. He likes testing his power. What use is there in that if he's just going to wish for that power? He'll have no one to use that power against, and the journey itself won't be fun either. Just searching for a set of Dragon Balls? Where's the fun in that? Which is why he's glad that he's encountered this other Cell. Glad that they could do this here. And as the fight rages on, it becomes very clear to Cell and Gohan. This other version of Cell is clearly far above them. They're still completely dumbfounded on who this guy is and why he's here in general. But Cell Prime also knows he probably has limited time. Thankfully, it seems the gods in this reality aren't aware of the Continuity Patrol. He's only really seen that in a few realities, so it's good here because it buys him some time. But soon enough, Whis will definitely figure out what's going on. And probably will be able to contact the Continuity Patrol. Once he reaches out to someone above him, maybe. So Cell Prime thinks he's on the clock. Which he is. And it kind of irks him too because he does want to finish this battle. He wants to see it all the way through and he wants to have fun here. He wants to get a good test of power fighting his own self. Even if it's a weaker alternate version of him. And he questions his other self too, saying that he could be much stronger if he wasn't like this. Same goes for Gohan too. Of course, he knows that guy's a lost cause. He and Goku for that matter, they're always pure of heart and just too soft. Especially from what he saw of the Gohan in his own timeline, he even slacked off. Maybe it's different here, but still. Although he's just more surprised about the other Cell. If Cell Prime ever became good like him, he wouldn't have had this power. He obtained this power by doing what he wants and fighting who he wants. The other Cell should too. especially with that level of power, the multiverse, all the timelines around him, all the continuities around them. It's theirs for the taking. But that good version of Cell is clearly too far gone to see that. But the good Cell says that's ironic. He grew strong exactly because of that, and he would have never thought that would have happened. And from what he could tell, this other Cell is completely different from him. The only reason he's as strong as he is because of when he was born, basically. The good Cell never had that same advantage in life. Cell Prime, he was born with different DNA, born at a different time, born in a different continuity with different things happening. And while Cell Prime might take pride in that power, the other Cell taunts him. That power's not his own. He just got lucky. It's a product of his circumstance. And no matter how much power he ever obtains, he says it won't ever feel like his. And despite knowing basically nothing about Cell Prime, he's right. That's exactly the case here. Cell Prime's power came from when he was born, how he was born, how he emerged, and stealing the power from other people too. Barely any of his power came from his own training. But this other Cell, it came from hard work. And it does touch a nerve with Cell Prime. But before he could fight back, something weird happens. He just vanishes, pulled away by something. Almost like a wormhole appears behind him and pulls him into it. What the hell's going on here? He wants to get back to fight that other Cell, especially after being taunted like that. Is this the continuity patrol's doing? No, it's something else. He ends up in a new continuity, and he looks at his continuity ring and it clearly wasn't that did it. It was some sort of external force. It seems like he's in Universe 7, but on some unnamed planet, and he senses a power near him, and then hears a voice. With the voice saying he was trying to find somebody else. As Cell looks over at him, he sees what appears to be another version of Goku, or Kakarot for that matter because of the Saiyan armor, but he looks vaguely different. What he's facing is a villain from Kakarot 2's past. It's Turles. You see, Cell wasn't the only one that broke continuities and split timelines. Obviously in Kakarot 2's own time, he did the same thing too. And unknowingly, he did create some separate timelines. Where Cell finds himself right now is a timeline where Turles actually won, and continued to grow stronger. Ironically enough, the Turles in this timeline, he was basically trying to do the same thing that Cell Prime's doing, traveling to other timelines by brute forcing it. And he didn't expect to find an opponent like this. He doesn't even know who Cell Prime is. But Turles isn't going to complain. He can tell this guy's powerful, and it still should be pretty fun. An ominous aura flares up around Turles. Cell's facing a completely unknown villain. One who derived power from the fruit of the Tree of Life. First planets, then stars. And now in this timeline where he won, galaxies, next the entire universe, and maybe continuities beyond that too. This is Cell's next opponent, Majin Turles the Gluttonous. And this is where we'll leave off for now. What do you guys think about this part and what's going to happen next? Leave your thoughts or suggestions in the comments below. I'd love to see what you think. As usual, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help out the channel and shows me you want to see more videos like this. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.